Hey guys, the head guy for Sledgehammer Zombies, Cameron Dayton, had made some really interesting tweets the other day. He gave us some backstory intel that's not in the game. Like, you can't, go in and listen to radios or anything like that to get this information. The first tweet, he said that Klaus had an extensive and illuminating collection of books. His fascination with history allowed him to see how Geistcraft had been used in the past and why it was deliberately hidden away. Then the next tweet was, Straub and Richter were so focused on the sheer power of the energy they found in the hilt that they neglected the important messages and warnings carved into the stone around them. So I was like, oh, okay, so down in the chamber, yeah, there's those carvings on the walls, and I was wondering like what was going on with that. So there's definitely a story being told there, and more to it than we initially thought. So I went down there to check it out because I had been curious about the stone carvings since I had seen them, and I wanted to see what is the story that's being told here. For the storyline, Sledgehammer has been taking bits and pieces from history and creating the storyline around Barbarossa. So I wanted to go and check out the history and story of Barbarossa to see what did they use from that, and how can it compare to these carvings. I first fully colorized the carvings, and I'll show you guys that in just a moment, and then I was able to actually find the matching history that they used as inspiration for this. It's representing his last battle and also his death back in 1190. Back in 1187, Frederick Barbarossa headed up the German military and did a third crusade on foot all the way from Germany into Turkish territory. They were headed towards the Holy Land, and normally with this type of crusade, they had gone by boat, but this time they wanted to go by foot. So it was really, really treacherous and a really difficult journey. They ended up in Turkey, and they fought a battle against Konya, and it's a city in Turkey also known as Iconium. It's probably the battle that Barbarossa is most known for. It took place on May 18th, 1190, and they won the battle very, very easily and were able to take over the city. After the battle was over, they were really tired. They had just traveled really far and, had to fight a battle, so they were just taking some time off. Well, on June 10th, 1190, which was just a couple of weeks later, they had gone to a river called Salif River, and the stories are that they were bathing in the river or even trying to cross it. Well, when Barbarossa was in the river, whether he was crossing it or bathing in it, he did drown in it, and that is something that the historians know for sure, that he did drown, but there are stories based around why he drowned. A lot of people are speculating that it was either a heart attack or a stroke. He was 68 years old, and after he died, it sent their army into a tailspin. Their leader had just died, and chaos just broke out after that. So that's the gist of the story with that battle and his death, and it definitely seems like they're using that, and that's their inspiration for their story for World War II Zombies and, the carvings on the walls. There are 6 panels that are visible that you can see inside of the chamber. I did find a hidden one, and I'll show you guys that at the end of this, but I wanted to show you guys these panels in full color so you can see everything that's going on the scene. And this is the order that they're in. Now, I don't know if they're in the right order, but I would assume that if you walk into the room and you look to your left and then go clockwise, that is how it would tell the story. I may be wrong about that though, and that's why I wanted to show you guys these so that we could discuss it. And I'll tell you guys how I interpret it after learning about some of the historical stuff around Barbarossa. So the first panel on the left is that long, treacherous journey that they had to take, and they were going into Turkish territory. And that next panel represents them arriving at that Turkish, city, possibly Konya, or, they're representing that here. You can see the people inside of the castle are holding Turkish type medieval weapons. The next panel shows that castle kind of on fire in the background, and the people in the castle are still alive. There are some people in the water, don't know who they belong to, but you can see that Barbarossa is in a boat with his army. Based on the next panel, it looks like the sail of that boat was destroyed possibly by fire. You can see those arrows that were fired at them. But what's interesting here is now you have an octopus in play, and it looks like they're in some very violent storms, and a lot of people are getting thrown overboard, and an octopus is killing some of them. So the similarities between real historical events with Barbarossa and their storyline is that yes, they did take a very long journey. They did end up in what appears to be Turkish territory. It looks like they did have some type of battle, and it does look like Barbarossa ended up in some type of body of water and probably perished that way. My question is, what happened during this battle that looks like he may have not have won, and it definitely looks like he's in some serious distress in the water. Why is there an octopus? Like, these are some of the things I'm curious to know, like what you guys think about. If you spin around to the other side of the room, you can see more murals on that side, and this one depicts what looks like God with his two hands, and you can see lightning coming out of one. And then you can see 4 characters that look like warriors, like pounding the other hand. Then the next scene is obviously a statue of Barbarossa holding his sword. He's got those 4 warriors around him. Definitely looks like some kind of memorial, or shrine, or even like chamber where he was buried. So Cameron had tweeted that Klaus had looked into the history of all of this and found out that way back when they had actually utilized this Geistkraft energy, and when they used it, bad things happened, so they created the carvings on the walls as a warning to tell people don't mess with it. So that definitely seems like what the left panel is representing. You've got the left and right hand of God, and that's something that we interact with whenever we're trying to mess with the Geistkraft energy. So it looks like that's something they did in the past. And you can see those 4 guys like messing with the left hand. But I don't understand how that scene can go to the scene on the right. Like, how does that all connect? And those 4 guys, I'll tell you who they are. Those 4 guys are Barbarossa's royal guards. And you can see some information in the game where it said that he created 4 variants of Richter's Tesla gun, each named after the mythical weapons wielded by Emperor Barbarossa's royal guards. So each Tesla gun was created and inspired by these 4 guards. And the Hurricane was the legendary Warhammer, so that's what that one represents. The Midnight was the guy that has the Morning Star. The Reaper was created after the guy that has the Scythe. And the Bloodthirst is the Tesla gun that was created from the guy that has the sword. So that explains those guys, but I don't really even see those guys at the beginning of the battle, like in the journey or actually being on the boat. You only really get a good picture of them here with, the hands of God and then the final scene. So I guess these guys didn't die on the boat with the octopus attacking them, and maybe they're still alive. It definitely appears that they're still alive whenever they're like around Barbarossa's statue. Now I'll show you guys the hidden panel that I think might now be a zombie spawn. Like, there are 2 broken panels, and one of those could have been this one, but it didn't get added, or it's broken down because, they're zombie spawns now. But this one shows 2 scenes. You see Barbarossa kind of looking down into a cave, and then the next scene looks like he's walked away from the cave. He's holding his sword, and it looks like his sword is now energized. The way that I interpret this is like, this is what got Barbarossa in trouble and, sealed his fate. And that is where he like went into a cave somehow and somehow accessed this Geistkraft energy and was able to energize his sword with it. If you pay attention to in-game clues, you hear the characters talk about how the hilt had been unmovable for like 700 years because it was surrounded with this Geistkraft energy that kept it in place. So it's possible that that panel was the very first panel that should have been in the sequence, showing that, yeah, he had accessed the Geistkraft energy and it was putting the energy on this sword and then cursing him somehow. But then I'm not too sure how the panel with the god and the right and left hand and the royal guards like accessing the energy too, how that all fits in. So it's a little bit confusing. And again, where I'm looking for help from you guys to try to figure this out some. One thing I noticed from seeing this hidden panel is that you can see the pommel end of the hilt very clearly, and that doesn't exist normally on the hilt piece that we see in game, which makes sense because a trophy was released for the Darkest Shore showing that that's one of the objectives, to get that pommel piece and probably secure it to the end of that handle. So I have a lot of questions about these panels and some holes that I'm trying to fill in and, fit it all together. Is there something in these panels that we may see in future DLC, like an octopus boss or something like that? I figured with enough of us, researching it, we might be able to put some more of the pieces together and maybe, predict some of what might happen in the future DLC. There might be some story here that's right in front of our eyes to let us know, like, what could happen. Like, there is some information about Barbarossa maybe resurrecting and coming back and, leading Germany once again. That's definitely what is in the historical mythology. So yes, I have a lot of questions and I want to try to work with you guys to hopefully, solve this together. I've created an entire web page on my website just, for this so that we can get together and talk. I'll have all of these mural stone carvings and, them being colorized on that page, along with some of the information that, Cameron has tweeted out, and then some of the in-game story information. You guys can go to my website, glitchingqueen.com. Up at the top, you'll see a section for World War II Zombies, and just click on that and join the discussion. Please be polite. Let's be sophisticated. We are zombie fans, and I consider us guys more sophisticated than others, so please act like it and just stick with, the zombie storyline and don't offend anybody, please. I'm looking forward to hearing from the really smart Easter egg hunters out there that can help fill in the holes, and I personally love their storyline. I love that it is based on history and that we can kind of use that as an Easter egg hunt to, look at historical events and start matching them up. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I look forward to talking with you guys on my website, and we'll see you guys next video.